Alright, this is going to be a quick tutorial for Zero Death Pod Fraud. Just because a lot of people don't really know what it is, how it works, all that stuff. It's actually pretty simple. And the main thing I want to explain first is what it actually is. So the typical drop-in strat that most people do, where they'll tap left, right for the cutscene, and they'll drop in and hit the cutscene trigger. Or I guess the lap trigger, not the cutscene trigger. And that's called 2-death because of the amount of deaths you take after the initial one. The whole idea with zero death is that you are skipping the initial death. And that's the initial death you take as soon as you hit the cutscene. You'll notice that after you drop out after hitting the cutscene, you're usually waiting to respawn. Now, the way that you can avoid this death is by holding left like normal, but when you see him go off, or when you see him start moving, you hold down, and when he's off screen, you completely let go of inputs. So if you didn't get that, just rewatch and I'll explain. Basically, I'm gonna, as soon as I call back in, I'm gonna hold left on my D-pad. Same thing on keyboard, whatever. You can technically do this without the D-pad, but it's a lot easier with the D-pad. So I'm just gonna hold left on the D-pad when I call back in. As soon as I see him start gaining speed, I'm gonna switch to holding down. So let go of left and then switch to holding down. Now, when I see him go off the screen, I'm gonna let go of everything. Boom, nothing. Now, you do want to keep in mind that you might need to hold right, right there. So now drop out as early as you can. Sometimes you can just spam the escape key, or whatever your pause key is. And you'll see in the top left that I'm still alive. Now, this next part is also very important. So I'm going to drop out, and as soon as I drop out, I'm going to wait a tiny bit. This is just something you need to get used to the feel for. I'm going to wait a tiny bit, and then I'm going to tap right. I'm going to gain some speed. I'm going to move right again, and you're sort of going to gain speed and move right until you're in position, and you'll see what I mean here. Like that. Now, I'm lined up perfectly to do the whole strat with just the initial death. Right? Hit the cutscene trigger, drop out, hold right on the D-pad. We're done. Simple as that. Now, there are a few common errors people make with this trick, and one, it is, as soon as you drop out after the cutscene, some people will just hold right. That's not going to work. You're not going to get enough speed. Also, you need to hold right, or like tap right, I guess, early enough, because if you don't, you're going to start rubber banding. And that is a huge issue. You will absolutely not get out of that situation if you're rubber banding. So you want to try and get a feel for the timing of it. It is very, very difficult. Like, I don't think this is a strat that is... Like, it's definitely RTA viable, but I don't think it's a no reset run viable, for example, like the 2-death. But, yeah. The reason it is called zero death is just because you're skipping all of the deaths after the initial one, because that one is your initial death, and then you're already in position to do it, right? But here, let me quickly just show you how the rubber banding works. If I do this, you know, I'm getting shot back and forth, and like I can technically get out of this, but like that's what happens most of the time. So you want to avoid that. That's a pretty common pitfall. But there are a few other things that can trip you up, like the timing of when to hold left and back. I would say make sure you use the D-pad if you're on controller, and make sure you're letting go of left when you hold down. You're actually going to hold down for a very brief period of time. It's not as long as you would think. But yeah, it's not too difficult to get down. Does take some adjusting to, though. There's a lot of moving parts with this trick.